Okay, this is the third time taking this video. I was supposed to do it very quickly, but you know, your $200 microphone just stops working randomly, so that's great. Today we're going to be talking about hormonal and chemical PE. This is not something I recommend, but I do have experience with, so might as well bring my thoughts to the table. Before I get into it, BD's Girth Expansion Pack is now available on Peak Male Physique. I spent the past 2.5 months working on it, very slowly, I might add. But essentially, it is the exact same formula for my length book. Everything you need to know, everything I think is the most effective for penis girthening, and you can get it in a bundle with my length book for $69.69 at peakmalephysique.com. Yes, I made it that price for the joke. This video is not meant to promote any of this stuff. I've had some relatively positive experiences with it. That does not mitigate the risk for you though. So just because I did not lose all my hair and my prostate did not fall out my ass doesn't mean it won't happen to you. Okay? Just because my penis ended up growing a little bit faster than normal on this stuff doesn't mean yours won't actually shrink because you're injecting foreign compounds into your penis. So keep that in mind as we talk about. Let's start with the easy stuff, and that is dimethyl sulfoxide, DSMO. I probably said that wrong 10 times in the first take, so there we go. DSMO is a solvent. It has some useful properties in medicine where if you make it into a transdermal, it allows larger molecules to pass through the skin. The average rule of thumb is 500 Daltons can pass through the skin easily. The problem is a lot of medicine is relatively heavy because they're novel compounds. So we need to add some kind of solution to make it easily pass through the skin. That's where DSMO comes in. They're hungry. I need to feed them after this video. Wait, no, I already fed them today. Never mind. They're just being moody. With DSMO, it is also used in dental practices to help break down teeth a bit. Definitely not something you want to do normally. A few things to know about DSMO is that it is toxic at above 3% concentrations. And this is where the big warnings come in. I used to use DSMO in my lotion at a concentration of 1% just because I wanted a little bit more oomph going into it, so that way you get all those peptides I put into it to have the vasodilation and the copper peptide to travel better through the skin. I took it out because it did not seem to be as efficacious as I was making it out to be, and just for safety speaking, I took out any potential risk. So, no DSMO in my lotion. However, there is another person in this community that is rehashing a 15-year-old idea of mixing DSMO and PABA to treat Peyronie's and for potentially faster fatigue of the tunica albuginea. Now, I don't know what concentration he's using, but I can almost guarantee you it's more than 3%. I have seen it for sale on Amazon in a cream at 70% aloe, 30% DSMO for arthritis treatment in the knees. I do not recommend this. Excuse me. I do not recommend this for obvious reasons. And for the most part, it did little to nothing for me other than dry out my skin. I have tried the 70-30 split. Nothing. It was also in some of the transdermals that I've used before. It dries the shit out of your skin no matter what. Think about it this way, guys. I've seen this stuff melt plastic within 1 to 2 days because I let it sit in the sink. It is not something you want to be in contact with frequently at high concentrations. So please don't be rubbing DSMO on your penis. And I gotta flip the screen because I know I'm just looking at it because I am such a narcissist. Alright, on to the more touchy subject, DHT. Now, I'm only talking about this one because, one, I actually already made a video on this and why it doesn't work is we think it worked when I first started trying it. And someone named Ryan Russo used it and called me out on the video, so might as well bring it up here. DHT is what causes the masculinization of men. So your body turns the switch on around 9 to 13 and sometimes 15. It could be a little bit older. Anyway, during puberty, DHT starts being produced in your body, along with testosterone. DHT is what causes facial hair, causes body hair, causes the maturation to adult genitalia. So the thought process is if we can superdose DHT to the penis, we will see growth as an adult similar to what we saw in puberty. The main problem is that our DNA has limiters built in, so that way we don't have overrun growth of any specific area. So if you hit your maximum adult size, DHT will not do much, if at all. Now, my results, I saw probably about 1/4 of an inch in 6 to 8 weeks. I tried it for literally a year afterwards, because I just had it and I was doing other things, so it was very low risk for me other than my hairline. I saw very little change after the 6 to 8 weeks beyond my normal rate of gain with penis enlargement. Let's talk side effects with it. First, I already mentioned hair loss. Male pattern baldness is quite common with DHT, as it is the main driver of it. If you're sensitive to DHT, just look at your mom's dad or your dad and you'll have a good idea how sensitive you are to DHT. If they're balding, especially if they're both balding, do not touch. You don't want that, especially if you're under 50. That's your prostate is very sensitive to DHT. It will lead to incontinence, so difficulty going to the bathroom, and a whole bunch of other issues sexually speaking. It can also increase the rate of prostate cancer, so not really worth it there either. Secondly, and this is just another thing, you gotta forgive my cough, by the way. People are also asking about other compounds, say Masterone, which is very similar to DHT. With Masterone, they modified it to be less androgenic than DHT, meaning it is less masculinizing, because the purpose of anabolic androgenic steroids is the muscle mass retention. They are designed to keep muscle mass on cancer patients, so we're trying to limit estrogen effects from testosterone. We're trying to limit androgenic effects from DHT. So many of the common steroids that we see are going to be derivatives of dihydrotestosterone, where it was made to be less androgenic, oh my god, made to be less masculinizing, and then less, since it can't turn into estrogen like testosterone based compounds, you won't have any of the estrogenic effects, which is another bag of worms that you need to keep an eye out when you're taking super high doses of steroids. But that's a video for another day. So the gist is, your Masterones, your Winstrals, your Anavars won't do anything to your penis, because they're specifically designed not to interact with that molecule at the same rate DHT does. So even if you have a stunted puberty, taking Masteron, Anavar, Winstrol won't do anything. If you are concerned that you are hypogonadal in any fashion, go to a men's health clinic or an endocrinologist specifically to get help that you need. IGF-1, insulin growth factor -1. Essentially, it has similar effects to insulin with a few other novel properties. With insulin, sorry, just ran up the steps. So with insulin, it signals your body to absorb nutrients and causes cells to divide. With IGF-1, you get that benefit of increased nutrient delivery, but also something called stem cell recruitment. And so stem cell recruitment, there are little stem cells in your muscles and throughout your body. With enough insulin, or with enough IGF-1 rather, they are coaxed into joining with the afflicted tissue. So that way you get more myonuclear density in a muscle fiber when you have more stem cells come in recruited into the muscle. The idea is to mimic that with the penis. I have very limited experience with IGF-1 with penis enlargement. I used it for about 2 to 3 weeks. It really increased my rate of expansion, but that's kind of the thing with IGF, is that it also increases water retention because it just makes your cells swell. So it was inconclusive at best. Much better muscle builder than what people make it out for, though. So if you are thinking about doing anabolics, try IGF-1 first, because while the risks are scary, they're much lower than, say, testosterone and other anabolics long term. I don't know if you heard my third gurgle, but essentially IGF-1. So the main risks are going to be blood sugar fluctuations. And then if you already have a tumor, there is a chance that will signal the tumor to grow faster. So yeah, because you're like delivering more growth factors, more nutrients to the tissue. Not a fun time. A few other things. Acromegaly, potentially, if you chronically abuse it, but if you only do it for 1 to 2 cycles, you're not going to have any like gigantism kick in. Then BPC 157. Now, BPC 157 is originally found in your gut. I've done a 20-minute video on this and talking about its efficacy for penis enlargement, so I'll just give you the gist. BPC 157 causes a bomb of growth factors in the afflicted area. It is found in the stomach, so it can treat stomach ulcers. If there's a perforation in the stomach lining, BPC comes in, nukes the area of growth factors so it heals quickly. So that way you don't have a hole going through your stomach into your abdomen and so forth. Now, we take that. It has been well reported, at least by gym bros, that it basically cuts the amount of time you need to heal in half. And I've seen studies where tendon fibril growth is like 60% faster and thicker than it is within a control group. So it is some pretty powerful stuff. The only problem is it goes bad relatively quickly, and you have to dose it intracavernously, it seems, and then you also become less sensitive to it over time if you're repeatedly dosing the area. So for me, I saw a 1/4 inch like in 3 weeks, but after those 3 weeks, stagnation, just like in DHT. I also have a friend in this who has used BPC 157 a lot. One of the fastest gainers I know, but I think he also stagnated with it. So you probably have at most 2 months to 6 months on it before it just is not effective for you anymore, because your body has all these auto-regulation systems to keep things from getting out of balance. Your body can't afford to be putting so much nutrients to its penis long term when it has so many other areas that it needs to protect. So that's one of the main reasons why it probably just stops working. What else? Now, my business partner, Hank, doesn't think it's all that, and that's fine. And he probably should be skeptical because it's just like 2 case studies compared to like insurmountable evidence that it probably doesn't do much. That being said, I would be hard-pressed not to talk about the side effects. First one that affected me was something called adhenodonia. I think that's how you say it. It's the lack of feeling and motivation. Something about it just makes you feel a little grayed out. Goes away in about 2 to 3 days. Second, no sensitivity whatsoever. So like after about a week of using that stuff intermittently, my nervous system dulled the sensation of my penis. Once I came off the compound, BPC 157, went back to normal. But for that week on, it was somewhat hard to orgasm. Then, just like IGF-1, since we were causing an increase of growth factors, there is a chance of increasing the rate of growth of tumors. So if you already have a tumor, it might be a much bigger tumor by the end of your stint with BPC 157. And there's also debated evidence if it's systemic or localized. In my experience, it is very localized to the damaged tissue itself. So as soon as it comes in contact with a damaged tissue, it binds. Meaning that if you're not doing adequate work to your penis, it won't do anything. If you don't inject near your penis, it won't do anything. Fat pad injections might work, but your best bet is intracavernosal, and that has an increased risk of fibrosis. Hank found a research study that says 1 in 4 people that have done Intercavitous injections frequently have some form of penile fibrosis, aka internal scarring. Now, fibrosis is reversible, but I don't think it's something you guys want to do for potentially an extra 1/4 inch to your penis. And then what else? Oh yeah. Finally, PRP, and this is the only one that I know has like confirmed efficacy, and you can get it at men's health clinics nationwide and worldwide, or whatever, you know. Basically, the idea is you take a lot of blood out of you, anywhere from 30 millimeters to 120 milliliters, depending on your doctor, depending if he's trying to Frankenstein you or not. Then they spin that blood really fast, and that causes all the red blood cells to sink to the bottom, and then all the growth factors to rise to the top. Some doctors will take both the PRP, which is the target growth factors, and just inject those. That would be a much smaller volume compared to taking both the platelet poor plasma and the PRP. And the idea is that it causes more distension and swelling, and that's what's actually going to cause some tunica reformation. There's not much evidence to say which is more effective, but you need a high yield of PRP regardless. Second of all, they need to activate the PRP, because they're not actually using those platelets to cause the growth. They're causing the growth factors in those platelets to cause a storm of platelets in the penis that will then cause all the growth. So they will squeeze them dry using a calcium solution, inject all those growth factors into your penis, and then over time you'll see an increase in sensitivity, an immediate increase of girth that slowly goes away because it's a bunch of swelling. But if you're doing the pumping along with it, there's a good chance you will keep that inflammation as real tissue, or at least in my experience. And then you'll see slight elongation. Did I say sensitivity already? I think so. The downsize. It's expensive-ish. It is anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 a session, depending where you live. There is complications. I had the complication of having little blood blisters on the side, and then those burst because I was constantly pumping, and I had these like big-ass scabs on my penis, which left scars. It's just on the skin, though. There's no fibrosis on my penis that I am aware of. So there's potential discoloration as well, since we are constantly pumping. You're going to be bleeding a little bit internally for the first 3 days, as the pressure in your penis is much more than it's used to. So you'll be bleeding a little bit, causing a bit of discoloration as well. But in my experience, I've done this 4 times now. I just got my second session. No, I just got my 4th section last week. And first time, 1/4 inch in girth, 1/4 inch in length. Second time, I had the complications where I had to stop pumping. Nothing happened then. Third complication was I caught COVID right after my 3rd injections. So I actually lost gains in the process. Gained them all back naturally already. And then this 4th bound, it was just to make sure I was not full of shit with my recommendations. So far, it's been awesome. I hate to toot my own horn with something so expensive. Or I hate to promote something so expensive. But like, if you have sensitivity issues, helps immensely. Basically, if I hold my wife's hand, I will get erect. It's like teenage boners all over again. There has been a notable increase in girth, but I'm also pumping more, so it might be because of that. But like, I'm harder, and I have a lot more nocturnal erections, even more so than when I first started all this new stuff. So it is, I think it's worth it. It really just depends on your practitioner. That being said, I think that's all the crazy shit that I have tried when it comes to my penis. So I have tried 6 different compounds. Only 3 of them have actually done anything. 2 of them, results were fleeting. 1 of them cost $1,000 per session, at least in my area. So, and then I still had complications with it. So that does not paint the greatest picture. PRP is by far my favorite so far, just because it's one and done. There is less risk overall since you're not injecting constantly. You're looking at, what, a 3-month to 6-month window per session if you're really trying to milk it. But even then, you're going to see a decrease in sensitivity to these growth factors. It's a scientific fact. that this will happen at some point. So you need to take it slow and try to mitigate that drop in sensitivity to the PRP to get your money's worth. I think I said most of the things that worked got me 1/4 inch in about 6 weeks. With my new routines, I've been getting about 1/4 inch in 3 months. Actually, this last bout, I got about 0.4 to 0.5 in 5 months. So, I'm not saying that my shit is that good, but like with a bit of like smart programming, you won't need any of these performance enhancers to see gains. You like, knowing what I know now, the only thing I would have really tried was PRP. Just because it's like, is very low risk compared to the other 4 or 5 that I mentioned. And that actually shows efficacy, like scientifically speaking. Everything is hearsay. PRP actually has like scientific studies. Granted, they're paid for by people that do P shots. But at any rate, there's at least some viability to it, unlike the DHT, which is unlike the DHT creams that think that it will work on adults when there's no evidence that it will. Healthy adults, that is. BPC, which is a relatively new compound, and we don't know probably half of the side effects it actually has, so it's not a good long-term solution. Then IGF just was a complete speculation on my end. It's awesome for muscle building, not so much for penis enlargement. So, don't be like me, okay? Don't risk your health just to try to be hyper elite for whatever reason. My mindset has changed completely since then. So, back when I first started doing all this stuff, I felt like for me to be worthy of anything, I needed to be in like the top 1 to 0.5%. So, I had to be the number 1 guy out of 100, number 1 guy out of 200, however you want to look at it. When it comes to like muscle mass, income, penis size. And obviously that's not sustainable. It's very high stress, and this is what I've been trying to explain a lot to some of my younger clients that are trying to be like me, is that I was fucking miserable during this time, and it made me do a lot of high risk stuff. So you need to learn how to be happy with yourself as is, rather than looking for these quick solutions to get to where you want to be. Granted, I know I've got lucky when it comes to anabolics, when it comes to being put in a position where I can help so many people and make a relatively high amount of money in the process, and like with my genetics as well. But I'm telling you now, guys, there's so much more to life than how you look. But I understand how crippling, like, I guess, body dysmorphia and body dissatisfaction can be. So just please do your research, and please reconsider whatever stupid thing you were thinking about doing before you found this video, okay? That wraps this up. Leviathan Wellness is up there. I guess 2 of them are over here, but they're too far out of reach. That will be in stock very soon, by the way. Vigor, that is. My girth book is now for sale. You can get the bundle for $69.69 on peakmalephysique.com. This is BD signing off, and I will get your orders out soon.